Hi guys, I have another wonderful guest today, Lolade. We are going to talk about being mixed race.
Hello, I'm Lolade. I'm mixed race, Nigerian and English, but I grew up in Nigeria. I was born in England, lived in Nigeria my whole life, and now I'm living in the UK full time. So yeah, we're just gonna have a conversation about what it is being mixed race in Nigeria as well, because that's a very interesting topic that nobody talks about that much. So yeah. That's what.
Most definitely, we definitely talk a lot more about being mixed race in Europe. So you did the an interview with Mixed Race Faces.
Yes.
So that's how I found this her amazing story, and I was like, oh my god, I have to connect. So we connected, and instantly we just started talking about being mixed race, what it means. You know, obviously what connects the two of us as well is being Nigerian. My story is similar and yet so very different because I grew up in Poland as a Polish Nigerian, so it's just great to get this other perspective that is similar and yet so very different from someone who is also mixed race, also Nigerian, and yet has such a different experience. I think what's really important to say is that your parents are still together. Your English dad and your Nigerian mom are still together. I'm saying it is important because many mixed race people that I talk to, their parents have often divorced or just separated.
Yeah.
But that's not your story.
Lolade, Niboloa, Ebing Bamio.
What do you want to eat?
Mofeje jollof rice at Yeja. Oya. Omodada. Oshio.
Have you ever struggled with your mixed race identity?
Yeah, I've definitely struggled with it, I'd say. There have been times where it's been better than others. I think when I was younger, it was really bad.
Oh, really? Despite the fact that your dad was there?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think back to when I was younger and how I felt about being English, because I don't have that many memories of struggling to feel English, because I had this perception of England when I was younger. It was a perfect place,
wow.
You know. You'd
so
come
very
here.
Nigerian perception.
Yeah.
Heaven on earth.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd come, I'd have all my cousins, everyone was just having fun, you know, because it was on holiday.
Yeah.
And I'd be with my English family. I never felt different, but I wasn't integrated into the society, so I didn't really understand the social context of, you know, race and things like that. So I think it's, as I got older, I started to understand that more, and then especially coming to school here, that's when it really hit me.
Yeah.
That, okay, maybe I don't really feel English, but at the same time in Nigeria, I was always struggling with feeling Nigerian. It wasn't all the time, it wasn't like an everyday thing, because I still had friends. My friends accepted me as Nigerian, no one ever questioned me, but just sometimes on a day-to-day level, you just get the comments and the looks and the surprise that I'm Nigerian and things like that. So it's a very complicated journey and experience, exactly. Yeah. So the bottom line is I definitely have struggled with it, and there's not been a point where I was in Nigeria and I was like, I don't care about anyone's perception. I fully know myself. I'm mixed race, I'm Nigerian and English, and that's what matters. I did feel like, I don't know, it sounds like a cliche of mixed race people that, I don't know where I belonged, but I did. That was just the truth.
But you know, I feel like now people generally don't know where they belong at certain stages of their lives. You know, I don't think it's just a mixed race thing. Of course, with us, it's different. It's more intense, I guess, because I don't know why it has to be this way, though. I wish the world was different, so that we would not even have to have this conversation. But I totally get it, and it's interesting to know that even though your dad was there, it still was a struggle. So you kept coming to England for holidays. So you were not. It's not like you had never been. All you knew was Nigeria. You kept coming here. So England was holidays, and then Nigeria was real life, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. I just wanted to highlight that because, you know, many Nigerians, they generally believe that Europe, England is like the promised land. There is nothing. There is, you know, those who haven't traveled, the ones who travel, they know, but those who haven't, they believe that this is the promised land. This is so beautiful, so wonderful. There are no problems here. But for you, it was a mixture of this place being a holiday destination, where you had a lot of fun with your cousins, your family, and then you would go back to Nigeria to live life, which obviously is more challenging usually than holidays.
And that is the thing, because of all the experiences I've had in Nigeria as a mixed race person, in terms of feeling very hyper visualized, I didn't feel that here being on holiday. I think maybe it's just because I was a child and, I was just having fun. I didn't really care. I didn't think about those things at the time. But I remember being in London when I was about maybe 14 or so, and I was with my dad, my mum, my sister, and my mum's cousin and her daughter, who are black. And there was a man. He was a funny looking man. He was dressed up in like neon green. So my dad looked at him and was like, "Oh, look at this man. He's kind of funny looking." So we looked at him. We all kind of giggled, like, yeah, it was funny. And he walks past all of us and was like, "You monkeys need to go back to your country," blah, 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 blah. And my perception of this, place that I wasn't perceived in a particular way just kind of got tarnished, and I got really affected by it. And my mum tried to explain. She was like, "Yeah, the UK is racist. There's still some racist people here." And I didn't want to hear it, because I was just like, no, because I liked coming and having fun and, just having a bit of a break, if that makes sense, from the hyper visualization. Not that there wasn't any looks or things like that, but I never really felt it. So at that point, I was just like, something else now. Yeah.
So you had England romanticized in your mind.
Yeah, I definitely did.
And that was when it was broken? The spell was just...
Yeah, that was the start of it, I'd say.
Because it just didn't accept that England wasn't perfect at the time.
I mean, because I was getting a bit older at that point, I did know, and I was a bit aware, but I just didn't think it'd be my reality because I didn't live here at the time. But just actually experiencing it, it just didn't feel nice. Like my kind of, not fairy tale, but my break, the holiday destination that I've come to. Exactly. Yeah, my happy place would just be ruined now. Yeah.
Okay, so would you say that was the first time when you realized that you were not entirely accepted, or maybe you were different even here in England?
I think, not that I've always kind of known that, but at that point in my life, I was getting into my teens. I was aware of it, but it didn't resonate with me. So I think that really made it more connected to me and myself, in terms of it can also be my experience. It's not just an experience that happens.
Right.
Exactly.
So it became more personal. Okay. What about Nigeria? When did you realize that you were different, or did you did you feel like you were Nigerian and that's it?
So the first memory I ever had was in primary school.
Yeah.
I was in reception, first year of actual big girl school, and I was in a class and we all got into trouble. There was another mixed race person in the class at the time, and everyone got into trouble. We all got punished, and quite a few of us cried, including me and the other mixed race student.
How many of them?
I think overall in that year there was a couple, but in that class it was just me and him. So we were also crying, and the teacher was like, "Oh, my angels, oh no, you guys are okay, you're not in trouble." And I come and sit on my lap, and she calmed us down. Everyone else was crying and still doing their punishments, but that's when I really noticed at 5 years old,
oh my God, this is terrible.
that's when
we spoke about this, and it's like, but even now as you are repeating the story, I'm just like, this is horrible. So the two mixed race kids in the class, how many kids were there in total?
Probably 20 something. There was a lot of us,
and everybody was crying.
Most people were crying,
and the teacher just encouraged you, came to you, called you her angels. Her or this?
Her.
Just the two of you?
Just the two of us, yeah. I still remember it very vividly till this day, and kind of realizing that, I have an advantage. I get this special treatment. Yeah, and it happened a lot in school. I mean, we used to have these things called school mums and school daughters, and everybody used to do it. It wasn't like it was just me that used to be asked to be a school daughter. But I get so many people in secondary school in like year 10 and 11 who are 15, 16-year-olds coming up to me as a 5-year-old, just, oh, you're so cute. Oh, I love your hair. Oh, you're so pretty. You know, I didn't really notice that with a lot of other people. Not that anyone else wasn't found cute by the older students and thought they were like, you know, cute little toddlers, but I don't know, I did feel it was quite different with me, and especially my hair. It was always your hair, you know, your hair's so pretty. Even adults would be like, oh, I wish I had your hair, can you cut your hair and give it to me? You know, that kind of thing. So I felt like,
is that why you cut it?
to be fair, when I cut my hair, they were looking at it like, you know, we can use this for attachments in the hairdresser.
It's funny because I get the same thing even now when I go back to Africa, wherever, whether it's Ghana or Nigeria, they always, you know, the hair is the thing. I remember when I once cut my hair shorter even than I actually cut it by myself, but then I made a mess, so I had to go back to a hairdresser to fix it for me, and so it was like, it wasn't fully cut just yet, but I just wanted to just cut it really, really short, like super short, like a boy short type of length. And she refused. It was a black hairdresser. She refused to cut it. She was like, I'm not going to cut your hair. I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to cut my hair? It's my hair. I want to cut it. You are a hairdresser. Can you cut my hair? She's like, I'm not going to cut your hair because it's too beautiful to cut.
No, that's what happened to me when I was cutting mine. I went in saying I want to do a big chop, and they were like, what do you mean? You want to cut this hair? I was like, yeah, I want to cut it off. I have so many split ends, I just want to get rid of it. Okay, you just want to trim. Okay, we'll just trim it. I was like, no, I don't want to trim it, I want to cut it all off. They all started looking at each other like I was absolutely mad. And then as they were cutting my hair, they were like, do you want to cut? Are you sure you want to cut your hair? Like, please don't cut it. Yes. And I was actually second guessing myself, like, should I not come? Do I want to do this? But I still did it anyway. But yeah, they thought I was mad. They thought I was crazy.
Same here. And like the hairdresser, I had to tell her, listen, if you're not going to cut it, I'm going to cut it. I'm going to make a mess. I'm going to look crazy. And I'm not going to be happy because this is your job. Like, I want to cut my hair. Can you please help me? So finally she cut it. But it was a battle. It was a battle.
Yeah, because they just romanticize it so much. They just think, you know, the looser hair textures are so much better and they're so much more beautiful. You know, that whole thing of good hair, like, oh, you've got that good hair. Why would you want to cut it? Yeah.
You guys, we are actually in Hyde Park in London, and it's so freezing here.
Very cold, yeah.
We are just so please, if my brain freezes every now and again, please forgive me, I'm trying. What about England? When did you realize that you were different, or maybe you were not accepted as much as you should have been fully, not as a, you know, when did that happen?
I think it slowly started happening, like when I mentioned earlier about when I was 14 and the idealistic mentality I had about England kind of changed. And definitely when I went to boarding school, it was
here in Cambridge.
Yeah, in Cambridge. It was predominantly white boarding school. I was 16, yeah. There was no black people in my year group, and it was quite a small school. There was only 150 of us in the year, which is generally quite small. There was 2 black people in the year above and a mixed race head boy, but he was basically white, you know.
White mixed race boy.
Yeah, I didn't really count him as a fellow, you know.
So he was just white passing, he just looked very white?
No, he looked mixed, but the way he acted, I just knew that he didn't relate to, I don't know how to explain it. There's some mixed race people, and I don't know if I'm going to get attacked.
No, say it.
But there's some mixed race people that I don't think is their fault. I feel like if you've grown up in situations where you're the only person of colour and, you know, maybe you're the only mixed race person, only black person, whatever, you would try your hardest to be like everyone else and not identify.
In Poland.
Yeah, but
so
it does. It does happen. It does happen.
But I don't think that's the reason. I don't know.
Do you not think?
Maybe. But I grew up in Poland. Like, it doesn't get any more any whiter than Poland.
Yeah, I have heard of it though in British contexts where
you have those tribes.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I think sometimes it's safer just to be as English and not as black as possible, just to fit in.
But did he look mixed race or?
He looked mixed race, yeah.
Okay.
So it was interesting, but I don't know. The vibe of the school
let's
generally.
Focus on your experience. Let's
Okay.
forget the boy.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, barely any people of color
Yeah.
at school. Well, there was a lot of Asian, Southeast Asian, East Asian people. Still very much a minority, but majority white. Which I didn't care, because I'm half white. Half of my family is white. It's not that
Deep.
It's not that deep at all. It's just the way I was treated and perceived that was the problem for me. So I remember the first few days of being there, I was classified as a home student because I was born here, I have the passport and everything, so I didn't pay international fees. I was an international student.
Yeah.
And this was a big thing for me when I was there.
But let's just clarify. So you were born in London, you went to Nigeria when you were 1, and
Yes.
you came back at 16 to Cambridge,
Yes.
straight to the boarding school.
Yeah, exactly.
Into the Lions Den.
Yes, and for context, I was homeschooled for about 7 years
Which is
before
interesting.
going straight back
Oh
into
my
school
God.
and boarding school, so it was already intense at that. And it's different living in a country and going on holiday, so actually living here was a lot different to
Of
what
course.
I was used to. But yeah, anyway, my first few days at school, we now know that I was a home student, I was an international student, but I got emails from the international department being like, oh, international students must go on a walk with their English mentor to go to the countryside and learn about English culture and assimilate. I was like, why did someone see me or see my name and assume that I was an international student because my name is Nigerian, because I wasn't put down as an international student anywhere. I wasn't affiliated with the international support and things like that at the school, so I just thought there's no way that.
But do you think, sorry to interrupt, but do you think it could have been because you had just come from Nigeria and they were trying to help you, do you think? Or do you feel like there was something else behind that?
I think there was something else behind that, honestly, because again, I had no communication with any of the international support or things like that.
Your story,
they didn't know me. I didn't even know that support was there.
Right.
So I just thought they probably saw my name
and
assumed that.
Right.
Something like that, because it was very weird. It felt like quite not malicious,
Out of
but
place.
yeah. So that already made me feel like someone assumes that I'm not English, or that I'm not used to English culture and I have to
Right.
come and get used to it. And yeah, on the day that they were doing the walk with their English mentor, I didn't go because I was like, I don't need to go to that. I know Cambridge already, I don't want someone walking around telling me what's what when I already basically know a lot of it. And I went for lunch, and this girl saw me and she was like, aren't you meant to be on the international walk? I didn't really know her, so I was just like,
why
just
did she feel she could, question
she's
your
just
choice of how to spend your day.
Exactly. And she had assumed that, again, I wasn't English and that I should have been on the international walk. So that was
annoying, yeah.
That was really frustrating. That was like my first week at the school, and I already felt like, do you know what?
I see.
This is going to be a long journey.
How long was the school?
It was for 2 years,
Okay.
but it was cut up because of COVID.
Oh,
But
okay.
the whole experience of sixth form was just the 2 years. Yeah.
I forget that you are so young. Yeah. I think it might be important as well for context. Like, you're 21, isn't it? You're happy to share your age and everything.
Yeah.
So that was that. But did you experience anything? I'm not looking for trauma or anything like that. It's just a question. Like, did you? How were you treated by your, schoolmates? People love to hear about traumas. Mixed race people being traumatized.
I just say experiences that are quite. They affect how you feel about yourself and your identity.
Yeah.
So, and I still think about them sometimes today. So in the school context, I just get the usual things. Like, the first time I went, I had braids, right? So people would ask me the same ignorant questions. Do you do them every morning? Like, do you take them out, put them back in
Sure,
every
8
morning?
hours
I used to
every
say
morning.
yes for most of the things because I got fed
Just don't
up.
want to explain.
I got fed up of explaining. Or what else? You know, where are you from? And I'd explain, and the kind of confusion. Like,
How
oh,
can you be
you're
English?
English, you know, kind of like how you were saying when you can tell people you're Polish, and they're like, oh. So yeah, just the explanations, and then telling people my dad is from Cambridge, and they'd be like, oh, really? Like, you know.
At least they didn't tell you your English is so good, right? They wouldn't say that.
Oh, someone did say once, well, it's fair enough because people knew I lived in Nigeria, that your accent is so good. You speak so well.
Yeah.
Not that you speak English so well, but just, oh, you speak so well. And it's different to saying, oh, you know, I kind of expected you to have a Nigerian accent, because that's fair enough. But if you say you speak so well, then it's like
You expect Nigerians or Africans not to
speak well, exactly,
Yeah.
or to have some thick accent.
And then
with-
you invite Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie to have a talk in London. By the way, I missed it. I got my days confused and I just missed it completely.
Oh, so sad.
But let's move on.
Yeah.
Speaking about that, like, so we spoke a little bit about your accent, because I actually said that I expected you to sound a little bit more Nigerian because you grew up there, and you told me that you can sound a lot more Nigerian.
Yeah.
Can you switch for a minute, like as we are talking? Can you try to switch so that we can hear you? You know, in the Nigerianness of your English.
I can try my best.
Please do.
Okay.
I just want you to do that while we are talking about switching. What do you think about code switching? Because, you know, often it is
Yeah.
accused of mixed race people are often accused of being double agents, of being fake, of being sellouts.
Oh yeah.
You know, all those accusations. So can we talk about code switching? What do you think about it? Do you think it's an advantage? Do you think it's great? Do you think it's fun to switch? Or do you think it's not that good? And while we are talking about that, do you mind switching to your Nigerian English?
Okay. I'll do my best.
Please.
It's because it's very, I think it's very much psychological. I have to be in a certain environment, be with certain kinds of people, you know, to
I love it.
sound a particular way. Because even
I love it.
the way I was speaking before, I wasn't thinking about it, but now I'm thinking about having to speak with my
is so
Nigerian
cool.
accent. But if I was speaking to anyone else, or if I was in Nigeria, I wouldn't have to think about it. I would just do it. So it's a weird one for me, and sometimes it makes me a bit confused about myself sometimes. Yeah, it's definitely a weird one. I think it's very much natural as a mixed race person, because
Please
you
stay
know,
in your Nigerian. It's so cool. I'm just enjoying the moment. Don't go back to it.
because like you were saying with languages, you know, you would switch to French with your French family.
Exactly.
It's basically the same thing, you know.
In my case, it's going to be Polish. When I
Exactly.
land in Poland, you know, I
Then
pick up the
it's-
phone
yeah.
and I instantly speak Polish, and nobody will say it's a problem. It's natural.
Exactly. So I don't think it's a case of being a sellout. I
Yeah.
think it's just you having your two different sides to yourself and your two different cultures that come into one person, and they come out depending on the situation.
Yeah.
And I think it's different when you've grown up with both at the
Yeah.
same time. Because I think maybe if I'd just grown up in Nigeria and I didn't have my dad and I didn't go to England, I wouldn't have this, like,
You wouldn't have the
at all.
ability to, you know, speak
To-
English with an English accent, maybe.
Yeah. Or I would have ended up learning it at some point if I came to like when I'd come to the UK, but probably not, because I was
Probably not.
16, so I was quite a bit older.
Mhm.
I think it's when you have two cultures
This is just
at the
what
same
it
time,
is.
it just happens. And it's not that I'm trying to be fake or I'm trying to change myself.
No.
It's just that I am from two different places and I identify as both of them, and you don't have to put yourself in a box, you know,
You don't.
of I'm Nigerian, so
Yeah.
I've grown up in Nigeria, so I should just be Nigerian and I should just sound Nigerian. But I've grown up with an English dad who has a very much English accent, and I know my English family very well, and I used to see them all the time. So it just happens, you know.
Wow. You know, when you switched, I was just like, oh my God, she's Nigerian. That was the moment when when it really became real to me that you are from Nigeria. It's so weird. Even me, like knowing, I don't know.
I get what you mean.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel like you've just illustrated this whole switching just by doing this. I feel like, oh my God, I don't know how to explain it, but I could feel it. I was really enjoying the moment. It's like all of a sudden I felt like I was talking to a different person. All of a sudden I felt like I was talking to a different person.
Very different, yeah.
Do you get that from people?
You know, it's interesting because the first time I actually got a bit confused with myself, with my code switching, was when I went to uni. And I had a lot of Nigerian friends from Lagos who I'd already known coming to uni.
Nigerian accents.
Yeah, so I'd speak to them how I would speak to anyone else who, like in a Nigerian context. But then I'd have friends who weren't Nigerian. And like I said, when I'm in the UK and I'm talking to someone, I will automatically start speaking in an English accent.
Right.
But when my worlds collided and my Nigerian friends and English friends were in the same room, I would find myself... I would find myself literally speaking to one person one way and then my next friend the other way, and I was like, even my friends were kind of like,
this is so funny.
Like, what are you doing?
You know, I think it's more complicated because it's English still. Like for me, I can be in a room with people and I'm going to switch from Polish to English, from Polish to English, from Polish.
Exactly.
But those are different languages, so nobody questions that.
Yeah.
But with you, because it's still English, it's the same language.
Yeah.
But you literally, like when I was talking to you, it's like you entered another. It's like an alter ego or something, like talking to a different person. So what did you study?
I studied sociology.
Why did you choose that?
It just stemmed from the fact that I've always been very interested in social issues.
Yeah,
and
I wonder why.
I wonder why as well. And just social injustices as well. Growing up somewhere like Nigeria where there's a lot of, issues. There's a lot of different kinds of oppression, especially with gender and tribal and things like that. And generally just, I think my identity and where I'm from, the fact that I'm mixed race in Nigeria, I could already see how society works depending on different contexts and how people can be different with different people because of skin color or gender or religion, tribe and things like that. So I think naturally I was just very interested in it, and I thought it would be an amazing degree for me to study.
So we spoke a little bit about Yoruba, specifically being mixed race and Yoruba, and you differentiated between mixed race Yoruba people and mixed race Igbo people. So just for context, Nigeria has got how many tribes? How many tribes are there in Nigeria? Like 250. Many, very, very many tribes, basically. And, Yoruba and Igbo and Hausa are the three main tribes, right? So what do you think about, is there a difference between being a mixed race Yoruba and a mixed race Igbo person? We spoke about that a little bit. Do you want to expand on that?
Well, like I said, I did my dissertation about mixed race identity in Nigeria. So the people I interviewed were all different mixes to say, and different tribes as well. And I noticed that the people who were Igbo, so for example German and Igbo, they would explain, when I asked them, how would you describe your identity, they'll say, oh, I'm German and Igbo, or one of them was Japanese and Igbo. But the rest of them who weren't, they wouldn't specifically say, that, oh, I'm this and Yoruba.
They would say, I'm
this and Nigerian. So that was quite interesting to me. And in my literature review for the dissertation, I touched on tribalism in Nigeria, just to kind of set the tone for how it has affected Nigerians' ethnic identity, in a sense. So what I gathered was there's no real difference in terms of what you experience if you're like German and Yoruba or German and Igbo, for example. I guess it will be different in the Nigerian context if you just take the Nigerian identity of Yoruba and Igbo. That's different in itself. But having the half white or half non-black aspect, it doesn't change depending on if you're Yoruba, if you're Igbo, because at the end of the day, you're still some kind of Nigerian and half not black. So that the part that's not black is the one that stands out rather than the tribe.
But you also highlighted that you thought that, you know, Igbo people highlight that they are Igbo and not just Nigerian, mainly because of the oppression and like some of the things that they've gone through, right? The Biafra War, that was again Igbo, people being persecuted and stuff like that. So you kind of made the connection between persecution and holding on to that identity in a more, you know, like much more strongly, like wanting to define who you are with much more force than maybe when you've not been as persecuted as somebody else.
I think that's definitely a part of it, because Igbo people have a very strong identity and they did want to be their own country. So that's still kind of, not that every Igbo person still thinks that they should have their own country, but it's still very strong in their culture that that's their tribe, you know, they're Igbo. And
not just Nigerian.
Not just Nigerian, exactly. And there are a few people, like I said on the Mixed Race Faces post, somebody said, oh, Nigerian isn't an identity, you're Yoruba, you're not half something, half Nigerian.
They were probably Igbo.
I think so. So yeah, there's a lot of people that do see the tribe more as the identification than the country of Nigeria itself. Which is, it is fair enough sometimes, because tribalism is really bad, and, you know,
I guess that happens here as well, like Black British, you know, many people will say I'm not British, I'm Black British and stuff like that. In a way, no, I'm just trying to relate it to this European experience. And I guess, you know, sometimes when talking to white people, they don't understand why there is the Black Lives Matter movement. Why do you say black? Like, don't all lives matter? But the whole point is, like, the lives that are persecuted are the ones trying to defend their identity, and that's why they are building their own, they want to be their own nation, right? Do you think it's a similar thing? I'm literally shaking, like, it's so freaking cold. It's very difficult to talk about Nigeria in this.
I know, it's cold. I'd say it is slightly similar. I mean, this is coming from somebody who isn't Igbo. This is just from what I've heard and stuff I've read. But I think there's links in just, I guess, being Black British, you also face some oppression to quite a large extent. So having that community is very much about community. So I think, you know, being a part of your own community, being strong, you feel safer. Exactly. So I think it's definitely connected in that sense.
Wow. Let's talk about Natasha. You know, you spoke about the social injustices and gender-based violence, abuse, etc. So I don't know, my people may not know, but there is this situation, well, pretty soon everybody will know, because she's now in the UN talking about it. So there is the senator, Nigerian senator. She's actually mixed race as well. She's Ukrainian.
I didn't know that.
She is. Yeah, she's Ukrainian Nigerian, and she accused another. What is he? This guy. He's the president of the Senate or whatever in Nigeria. She accused him of sexual harassment, and she was suspended essentially for that. They said for something else, but it doesn't seem like it was for something else. It seems like it was she was suspended because she dared to speak up, and, you know, they tried to silence her.
Slightest provocation, she will come up with allegation of sexual harassment. And I don't know what is wrong with this lady. Does she think that she's the most beautiful woman on earth? Or is it because she's had chocolate color? In my own assessment, she's not among the beautiful women in Nigeria. And it is high time we come hard on her.
So now she took it to the UN because she did not get any support in Nigeria, or very little support. What's really sad to me is that the women did not, you know, so many, I can't say did not, but so many women came against her as well. What do you think about this situation?
I'm not surprised in terms of women not standing up for other women. I mean, there definitely are, you know, a lot of women that don't accept the treatment of women in Nigeria, but I think it's in the younger generations. I think in the older generations, there's still, I don't know, there's still the acceptance of men behaving in a particular way and being able to treat women in a particular way because they're men and because they're better. So yeah, I mean, even in just relationships and marriages, there's always this narrative of if something goes wrong, if the man does something wrong, you have to stay with him like he's your husband, you have to stay with him, you're his wife, that kind of thing.
He
He could be cheating, he could be abusive,
he can have another family somewhere else.
Yeah, but he's still your husband, you have to things like that. So with a lot of families that experience those kind of things, you don't really get the support from the older women in the family that encourage you to stay and
be quiet.
Exactly.
Not
just
stay,
be
quiet.
Submissive, just do your role as the woman and as the wife,
Just suffer and smile.
Yeah,
Is
so
that fella who suffering and smiling.
yeah. So men just get away with a lot of things, and it stems from just the idea that men are superior to women and they're stronger, better, are the breadwinners. Women should be at home cooking, looking after the children.
Or be sexually available.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that her treatment has anything to do with her being mixed race? I don't think it does, but do you think it does?
I don't think so. Maybe it's just because I've only just found out that she is mixed race, but I mean that's a whole thing in itself. There's the narrative of mixed race people having to be humbled in Nigerian society. So it's either you're kind of glorified or people have an assumption about you because of the glorification, because they assume that you think you're better than everyone and you think you're all that because you're mixed race and because people perceive you as better.
Does she think that she's the most beautiful woman on earth? Or is it because she's had chocolate color?
It could be part of it. You never know.
On the women's side, or because the glorification I've noticed in Africa, like with men, they kind of glorify you because you are lighter skinned.
Yeah,
many of them do. I'm shaking, I'm really trying to. And then with women, sometimes they feel as if you feel that you are better, so instantly they will mistreat you. They feel like your life is so good, like let's just bring you down a little bit so that we can feel better about ourselves. Do you think that had something to do with it, or do you think any woman who would be in her position would be, because there are so many women that came against her? I couldn't understand it. I mean, I can understand it because I've been to Africa many times, so I know how things work. I've had my own experiences that were just shocking. I was just like, is this really happening? But I mean, the way they came against her, calling her names and all that, I mean, it's a lot.
It is a lot, yeah.
Do you think that a dark-skinned woman in her position would have been treated the same way by other women?
I think it's hard to say, because there definitely is the kind of there's jealousy. There is jealousy, and I'm not saying it to be like mixed race people are better and people are always jealous of us, but there definitely is that in Nigerian society. Just with things like skin bleaching, I think like a crazy amount, 60% of women in Nigeria bleach their skin or will bleach their skin once at some point in their life. So people want to have, not everybody, but a lot of women want to have, even men, they want to have lighter skin. So there's definitely the jealousy that somebody else has lighter skin naturally, that kind of thing. So it could be part of it, but I think regardless of that, as long as she's a woman, then and she's saying this kind of thing, women will still not support, and
I just don't understand that.
Yeah, it's really sad. It's honestly really sad. Yeah, if you can't confide in your own gender, then
where do you go?
Where do you go exactly? Yeah, you go to the UN.
That's the only way.
Yeah,
and now Nigeria is complaining that she's shaming. She's just bringing shame to Nigeria. No, she's not. She's just trying to. She's just trying to defend herself. Is there anything that you would like to say? To conclude, something that is really important to you, maybe that is related to what we are talking about here?
I think being mixed race is amazing. I love it. Yeah. I love being mixed race, but I think it's very important to navigate your identity in a healthy way, as healthy as possible, which can be quite difficult depending on the type of environment you're in. But at the end of the day, a similar thing to what I said at the end of my Mixed Race Faces story was that people's perception of you or your perception of yourself isn't gonna change, who you are, so if you've been conditioned to think, I'm just black, even though you might feel like that, it shouldn't, the environment around you shouldn't decide for you. It should come within yourself and
Absolutely.
from your own just how you feel, honestly. And it's
you believe yourself to be.
It's not anyone else's
It's not
decision.
anybody else's
Yeah,
decision.
exactly. And it should be whatever you resonate with the most, and that again could be part of your environment as well, but it should be in a healthy way. So it's
Yeah.
just about the journey to having a healthy sense of identity and
Absolutely.
self. Yeah.
And I think that's something that I highlight when I reached out to you. I was like, I really loved that conclusion that you came to. It's just the only way to be. It's not even whether you're mixed race or not. Like, you have to decide whether you're going to allow the society to define who you are, or whether you are going to do that for yourself and take responsibility for who you become. Right? Because allowing somebody else to decide who you are, that's how we create excuses as well as to why we cannot be what we want to be. It's because of them. But I've said it before as well. When you are introducing yourself to the world, you are the one doing the introduction. It shouldn't be the world telling you who you are, and then you just repeat what they told you. You need to, it takes time sometimes, I guess, and especially if you are going through this mixed race journey, but ultimately, you are the one to introduce yourself to the world, and they can accept it or not. It's totally up to them.
Exactly.
But you remain who you are.
Yes, you can, regardless of
The bird agrees. Exactly. So thank you so much for listening, and I cannot wait to have you here again, because
Thank you for having me.
thank you so much.